This morning, a woman is finally home in Dallas after spending 140 days in ICE custody. Ward Sucic was born in Saudi Arabia to Palestinian parents. She's lived in the United States since she was 8 years old. She was arrested by immigration officials back in February. She was returning from her honeymoon to the U.S. Virgin Islands with her new husband when she was taken into custody. Now, we reached out to the Department of Homeland Security, who said in a statement, in part, the arrest of Ward Sucic was not part of a targeted operation by ICE. She chose to fly over international waters and outside the U.S. Customs zone and was then flagged by CBP trying to re-enter the continental U.S. Following her American husband and her filing the appropriate legal applications for her to remain in the country and become a legal permanent resident, she was released from ICE custody. Well, joining me now is Ward Sucic and her attorney, Eric Lee. Thank you both so much for joining us on this holiday weekend. Ward, I want to start with you. Can you please just tell me about your experience being detained and how you're feeling this morning?
Thank you. First of all, I feel good this morning. I feel amazing being back home, and I'm super grateful to be here. The entire detention process was not great. I wouldn't wish this upon anybody. It was very hard, very traumatizing, and very, very difficult, is what I would say to that.
Well, and Ward, can you describe a little bit more? I mean, just what it was like inside while you were detained for so many weeks?
Yes, absolutely. There was not a lot of things for us to do. It was a very lazy, each day was lazier than the next day. You will run out of energy. I didn't have much energy to do pretty much anything. All I had was my husband sending me books, and I would be reading. Once these books were done, send them back, get more books. We did have some Zumba and some dancing classes provided to us. It wasn't a daily thing, but it was pretty nice in the second facility that I was in. There wasn't a lot of people that spoke English in there. There was a lot of Latin women, so it was very hard for me to make a lot of friends. So often I just felt like I was a little isolated because I didn't really speak the language. So again, I was in an environment where I wasn't fully comfortable. And not only that, I was also very scared because it was very different to me. I didn't know why I was there specifically, even though I was asking, and I really wanted to speak to my deportation officer and all that, because I've been abiding by everything and I was complying, and I was just very confused on why I was there, especially when I report every year and they congratulate me on everything I've done or any new updates in my life. So it was just very confusing for me.
Eric, I want to bring you into the conversation. Your client's circumstance, very unique. I understand that Ward does not actually have citizenship anywhere. Is that correct? And how does that make this whole case more challenging?
Right. Ward is a Palestinian. The United States government does not recognize Palestine as a country. Her family, like the families of so many Palestinians, were kicked off of their land many decades ago and forced essentially into international diaspora. The government cannot deport her to any country. She has been, as she just indicated, complying with all of the supervisory demands that ICE has placed on her over the last years. I just want to say, since you started by reading the statement by the Department of Homeland Security, they also issued a statement yesterday to Newsweek saying that what Ward said about her conditions of detention, including regarding food, including regarding water, mistreatment by guards, the violation of her religious right, was false, DHS said. They called it a sob story. I guess what we would ask the American people is, who are they going to believe? Their lying eyes or the statements of the people who are responsible for carrying out what are really crimes against humanity here in the United States? On Monday, when Ward was brought almost out of the facility for her second deportation attempt, that was in violation of a federal court order saying that the ICE was prohibited from trying to remove her from the United States. This is a government which is actively undermining and violating the American Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And the case that Ward's case exemplifies the basic question that everybody should be thinking about on this 4th of July weekend, which is whether we live in a democracy or whether we live in a dictatorship.
Well, to your point, Eric, I mean, tell me, what is next in Ward's case? Is it pretty much over, or is there more coming now?
Well, there's going to be more coming. I mean, how that develops, not only for Ward, but for the tens of thousands of people who every night in this country go to sleep in the conditions that Ward was forced to endure for 5 years, simply for the crime, in most cases, of having been born in another country and trying to come here for a better life. I mean, this is America. There's a network of internment camps across the United States set up by Democratic and Republican administrations where families are detained, where parents are taken from their children. They just built something that they call Alligator Alcatraz, which is as horrific as it sounds. There's Marines in Florida helping ICE attack the rights of immigrants in that state. And they've just passed a bill in Congress, which is not beautiful, which is going to fund ICE to the tune of having more resources at its disposal than many militaries across the world. This is an extraordinarily dangerous situation. We have to really make the point that the situation Ward confronts shows that nobody's safe. They're talking about denaturalizing American citizens. They're trying to enforce what types of speech immigrants can engage in and what types of speech American citizens can listen to immigrants engage in. That is totally outside the American democratic tradition that was embodied in the Declaration of Independence that was signed almost 250 years ago.
Well, Ward, glad you're back home, and please stay in touch with us to keep us abreast of just how you're progressing in the weeks and months to come. Thank you both, Ward Sucic and Eric Lee, for joining us this morning. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
A group of state lawmakers in Florida are now raising humanitarian concerns about the controversial new migrant detention center in the Everglades. The 5 Democrats say they were refused entry and denied the opportunity to inspect the facility nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz. CNN's Rafael Romo has the latest.
Danny, good morning. The lawmakers say they were worried about humanitarian concerns at the new detention center in Florida, and that's why they wanted to assess conditions inside by personally visiting the site. But they didn't get too far. The lawmakers say they weren't even allowed to see the outer perimeter of the tent facility known as Alligator Alcatraz only hours after the arrival of the first group of detainees. A lawyer with the Florida Division of Emergency Management, which oversees the detention center, later cited a safety concern for the denial without offering specific details, according to one of the lawmakers. CNN, of course, has reached out to the office for comment. President Donald Trump toured the facility on Tuesday, along with his Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and their host, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Shortly after their visit, summer storms flooded part of the facility. Video from CNN affiliate shows wires submerged in pooling water across the floor. High winds made the floor and walls of the facilities tremble. Florida officials later said that, quote, vendors went back and tightened any seams at the base of the structures that allowed water intrusion during the heavy storm, calling it minimal. Florida State Representative Anna Escamani, one of the lawmakers trying to visit the facility, referred to the detention center as a political stunt.
Based on reports that we've been able to glean, the site is already experiencing flooding. The first individuals who have been detained with no due process have arrived. And it's so essential when you have hundreds of millions of public dollars being spent on a political stunt that we have the ability to see for our own eyes what is happening and to be the voices of our constituents.
Publicly on Tuesday, federal and state officials said they were working together on this, but in a court filing submitted the following day, the Department of Homeland Security said it has not been directly involved. The court filing says in part that, quote, DHS has not implemented, authorized, directed, or funded Florida's temporary detention center. An official with Immigration and Customs Enforcement also said that the agency's role has been limited to touring the facility to ensure compliance with ICE detention standards. Danny?
Rafael Romo, thank you very much for that report.
Welcome back to The Sparkle Show, where we slow it down, go beneath the noise, and shine some light where others won't. Today's story isn't just about one woman. It's about systems, silence, and the quiet price people pay while the headlines move on. This weekend, a woman named Ward Sucic finally came home to Dallas after spending 140 days in ICE custody. She was detained returning from her honeymoon. Yes, her honeymoon. Imagine getting married and coming back to start your new life, only to be taken away and held for nearly 5 months. Let that sink in. 140 days. A woman who's lived here since she was 8 years old. A woman who was doing what the system asked, filing paperwork, following the rules, reporting every year. But that wasn't enough. Today, we reflect on what happened to Ward, what it says about our immigration system, and what it means for all of us, immigrant or not. Credits to the originators and stitches of this video. Let's dive into the rest of the video.
After a few hours from returning from our honeymoon, I was put in a gray tracksuit and shackles immediately. I was handcuffed for 16 hours without any water or food on the bus. I was moved around like cattle, and the US government attempted to dump me in part of the world where I don't know where I'm going and what I'm doing or anything. I was not given a phone call. I actually got very lucky with the phone system, believe it or not, and that's how I was actually able to call my husband. I got extremely lucky with that, but a phone call was not provided to me from ICE. I just had to wait and take a very, very long time to pack my stuff in order for me to just buy time to wait for the phone system to work to call to here. And there were actually multiple days where it would be 36 hours, 50 hours, where I was not allowed to make a phone call to my attorney or my husband simply because I said, we don't want to deal with all that. We don't want to deal with family and attorney stuff, please. I have been transferred to 3 different facilities. The conditions of these facilities are terrible. Extremely unhygienic. The restrooms are also very, very, very much unhygienic. The beds have rust everywhere. They're not properly maintained. Ants, cockroaches, grasshoppers, spiders, you name it, all over the facility. Girls will get bit. Girls will wake up with giant bruises. They just brought in more bunks. And now I think it's going to be like around 60 women in that room, and it's going to definitely be overcrowded because the room is not that big. We can't walk properly in that room or anything. But I know they're just trying to fit as many people in the facilities as possible. The transfer process was absolutely disgusting. I would never wish this upon my worst enemy. The first transfer, I was on the bus for about 16 hours. Handcuffed from head to toe on wooden benches with me and several other women. We were not given water or food, and we would smell the driver eating Chick-fil-A. We would ask for water, bang on the door for food, and he would just turn up the radio and act like he wasn't listening to us. When I got to intake, we were thrown in intake, literally like animals. For about 7 hours. It's absolutely disgusting. It was a 400 square foot room that had a capacity of 10, and they threw 18 women in there. A bunch of women are inside with a toilet, no soap, water, and that's pretty much it. And you are just gonna sit there and wait to be checked into the facility. I've seen women that needed their medication, they were not given their medication. The second time I was transferred, it was 3 vans. It was just long hours on the van. We were actually told don't drink too much water because we're not trying to stop for the bathroom. The guard that actually took me, a facility guard, that took me to, get me out of the door and to see my husband was the same exact person that told me when I asked her where I was going, because I didn't want to leave the dorm without knowing where I am going. Is the same exact person that told me, I will handcuff you from head to toe and drag you out of the storm if you don't leave right now. That's the same exact person that opened the door to my freedom.
I literally lost 5 months of my life because that's something that I had no control over. I wasn't a criminal. I've never done anything wrong in my life.
What has been the response of the community in North Texas to your case, Muslim and non-Muslim?
Muslim, non-Muslim, it was absolutely beautiful. I was able to see people come together, people advocating for me, people I know and people I don't know. I'm very, very grateful for that. Yep. Coming at such a force to people that are not even criminal, like you're just shopping at Home Depot and next thing you know, you're on a bus getting detained. It's definitely something that's been shaking the United States. One thing I have noticed with our generation is that they speak up. They like to share their voice and stand up for what's right, which is beautiful because they live in this country and they have every single right to do so, and it makes me very very, very proud to see that from my generation. Gaza is still going through what it's going through. We should continue to still fight for Gaza. Even inside, my heart was still going out to the people of Gaza when I would look at the kosher food that I was given and I would be unhappy. I would literally slap myself in the face and I'm like, shut up and eat this, because there's people in Gaza that wish they had that. I will always continue to support everything that is happening with Gaza and to stand up and speak up for what's right.
Welcome back. How did this happen? Ward was born in Saudi Arabia to Palestinian parents, but she's lived in the U.S. since childhood. She was detained by ICE in February after flying back from the U.S. Virgin Islands. And that's where things got complicated. According to Homeland Security, because she flew over international waters and into a zone outside U.S. customs boundaries, she triggered a legal flag. ICE called it a targeted operation. But from the outside looking in, it sounds more like a loophole in the law turned into a cage for someone who wasn't trying to run or hide. She was returning from her honeymoon with her American husband, following protocol to become a legal permanent resident. Let's pause here. When we talk about immigration enforcement, people often imagine rogue criminals, dangerous actors, or people skipping the line. But Ward was literally in line. The paperwork was being filed. She reported to ICE every year, and she was still detained. What detention was really like. In her own words, and I give full credit here to the original broadcast and interview that was widely shared on social media, Ward said, "I wouldn't wish this on anybody. It was traumatizing. You lose your energy. You lose your sense of time. You read books, you wait, you don't understand why you're there." She talked about being isolated, not knowing why she was there, unable to speak with her deportation officer, surrounded by people who didn't speak her language, feeling afraid. She had followed every rule, and still she was locked up. And let's be clear, this wasn't prison after a trial. This was detention without conviction. For people navigating immigration paperwork, this is a very real fear, that a technicality or a policy shift or a flight path could lead to being ripped away from your life with no clear end date. Now, some might argue, well, she wasn't a citizen yet. But let's talk about what that argument misses. Ward was on a path to become one. She was married to an American citizen. She had been complying with ICE check-ins. She was in the system and following it. So what exactly was the point of detaining her for 140 days? To punish her? To make an example out of someone who wasn't resisting anything? When a system treats compliance with suspicion, we don't have a system built on fairness. We have a system built on fear. ICE and CBP exist under the banner of national security. But when that banner is applied unevenly, or worse, punitively, it becomes a symbol of something else, something that doesn't feel like justice. Ward's story isn't unique. There are thousands like her, people who get detained without warning, whose cases take months or years to resolve, who sit in limbo with no charges filed. And here's the hardest truth. Many people don't get media attention. They don't get lawyers. They don't get to speak out. Ward was fortunate to have legal representation and to finally be released. But even now, she says the trauma is still fresh. The time she lost, the emotional toll, those things don't get handed back when ICE opens the door. You don't have to be an immigrant to care about what happened to Ward, because this story is about the kind of country we are and the kind of country we claim to be. If we say we value due process, then that has to mean something. If we say we want people to do it the right way, then we can't punish them for following that path. Ward's story is also a reminder that the line between freedom and detention is a thin one, and it can be crossed not by breaking the law, but by being flagged on re-entry after a honeymoon. We cannot afford to treat people as numbers in a backlog, especially not when we're talking about people who grew up here, who built lives here, who trusted that the law would protect them. Justice is not a favor. To the people who say, well, she's lucky to be out, I say this. Justice is not a gift. It is not a favor granted when enough noise is made. It's supposed to be the baseline. Ward deserved better from the start. And so do the thousands still in detention without clarity, caught in a system more interested in enforcement than understanding. This has been The Sparkle Show. If you want to keep stories like Ward's alive and help us keep asking the hard questions, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this episode. Special thanks to the original broadcast and video creators whose interviews with Ward and her attorney helped shine light on this case. Credit to all originators and stitches of the widely circulated clips online. Until next time, stay aware, stay loud, and never stop asking, why is it like this?